Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, listeners, here we are, and we're back. I've got my partner in crime facing me again. I missed you last week, Stephen. You're looking well, mate. You look as though you caught up on some sleep.
I did. I've just I had a very busy week last week. I can't say that this week has been any different. It's been exactly the same. So too many 4 a.m. starts and 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. finishes. But there we go. It's a weekend. It's Friday. There will probably be some drink taken and a bit of catch up on the couch, I would imagine.
Yeah, and you're looking very sporty there, mate, with your Team GB cap on and your athletics hoodie.
Thanks very much.
Hey, looking good, son. Listen, all this. What about? I wanted to speak to you as well, and I missed out last week about what you thought would happen now with all these elections and the local mayors and everything that's happening. And it seems to have been a little bit of a swing in Boris's way again.
Well, I'm not surprised, Chris. I think the public have got better things to worry about rather than where Boris gets his curtains from, frankly. I think the Labour Party tried to use sleaze stories that might smear the Conservative Party, but the voters saw through that. They cut through. The messaging did not cut through with the electorate, and it's great to see the Conservatives winning in places. They've just taken the Vale of Clwyd, which is a Labour seat in the Senate, which is great. They won that at the Westminster in 2019 as well. They, of course, won Hartlepool. It's been Labour since the last 65 years, or was it 1965, one or other. Previously, of course, held by Peter Mandelson, no less Lord Mandelson now himself. And, of course, they've won the perfect trifecta of the mayoralties with Ben Hoochin in Tees Valley, Andy Street in the West Midlands, and so I'm pretty confident that the voters are far smarter than the media.
But isn't it? Do you know something? The reason I wanted to bring that up, right, is because I hope now things are starting to change. That people stop finger pointing, blaming, and focusing on others' weaknesses or misfortunes or whatever, instead of actually saying what they're going to do and how they're going to do it.
Well, I think people want action, Chris. They don't want rhetoric. They want action. They want somebody that says they're going to do what they will do, speaks their mind, is relatable. I think there are large elements across all aspects of society, be it in politics or in business, that people cannot relate to, and therefore they just have got no ability to support or doesn't engender a relationship with. So yeah, I think what we've seen today is and we'll see over the course of the next few days is indicative of where people's priorities lie. And it's actually getting back to business. Ensuring there are suitable jobs for people, and let's put in this pandemic behind us and actually moving on.
Yeah, I think somebody's just joined us there in the background there, Steve. It's nice to see that you're not all alone. So, yep, very good. But it's great. I think it makes so much sense now that people start focusing on what should be done instead of what somebody else hasn't done. So, touch wood. Let's hope we have a breath of fresh air with that. Now, another big day today for the travel bans and what's going to happen. Now, we're actually coming, what's the time now? It's 4:45. So we're not going to have the benefit of seeing what's on the news unless you've got it in the background there. But,
I do have it on the background here. Yeah, it just said this one, Transport Secretary to give details of new travel rules at 1700 hours.
Yes.
And that is in about
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yes. So, what do you think?
Well, I think there is, of course, reason that the announcement is timed at 5 o'clock. It's not because all the other government announcements have been at 5 o'clock, although that is a very good sound rationale for it being at 5 p.m. But it's because it coincidentally is 12 noon in Washington, D.C. And the word on the street, Chris, is that there will be an announcement made from Washington at the same time.
Yeah,
that will be, I think, pretty groundbreaking, pretty revolutionary, which will open up transatlantic travel between
Yep.
between the United Kingdom and the United States.
Yes,
which
indeed.
is pretty impressive. I think the second thing that we'll see is a very small list of countries on dare I say, for want of a better term, the green list. I think that number will obviously, of course, will evolve over time, but the reality is it's a pretty small number. That means that you can enter and leave, or you can exit and enter without any quarantine requirements. But I think there will still be an aspect of testing required. That's what I seem to understand from
Exactly.
from the
Yeah,
this
there is.
morning.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So then, of course, it moves on beyond that to amber, and I suspect that there'll be elements of quarantine or self-isolation and so on and so forth. I think that still exists there as well. But look, yeah, I think let's see what Grant Shapps says. He is, he's not known. I'm just looking around there to see if there's anything else. He's not known for being particularly innovative or groundbreaking when it comes to policy decisions. I think if Grant Shapps has the opportunity to secure defeat, he will ensure that he snaps or snatches defeat from the hands of victory.
Yeah.
And disappoints everybody, including the travelling public, including his own cabinet peers, and more importantly, the rest of the airline and travel industry. However, you've got 17 minutes or 13 minutes, Mr. Shapps, to get your stories together and impress us all with some really groundbreaking changes.
Yeah.
I do accept, Chris, however, that there is still an element of caution. I think we're right not to open up the taps, and therefore open up the floodgates fully. But let's hope for some really positive news in just a few minutes' time.
Yeah, no, but all right. I think there still has to be a bit of caution, and especially now with what's happening in India, because it's terrible. And sorry, Steve, I got a smile, mate. I'm looking in the background there, and I'm seeing how diligently one of your employees is looking after the frames and the. Salem, we got to save that one, mate. Look at that. That is beautiful. For those who can't see, Stephen's having all of his office cleaned very professionally, I would say. Well done, Stephen. Now back to the India issue. Terrible what's happening over there.
Yeah, look, I think it's brought with it a large number of issues, not just obviously the very sad cases that we're seeing in India every day, Chris. Hundreds of thousands of cases a day, tens of thousands of bodies piled up on pyres. Hospitals just overflowing, and no real available healthcare solutions. But what that, of course, has done in turn is I think there's been a certainly, whilst there's been a bit of a united front and countries pulling together to support India. I saw Germany and the UK been pretty advanced amongst others. Australia, despite Australians being very perverse with their own border policy, we'll come on to that in a second. But I think it has brought people together in the way of support. But I don't think it has actually had the effect of gathering people together and identifying that there is a more immediate need to vaccinate in places like India, with very large populations that are living on top of one another over and above their own countries. So, we were given the chance to sort of support with additional, co-vaccinations, but they haven't seemed to be terribly forthcoming. People have still sort of focused, or countries have still focused on their own needs first, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's a rather unusual set of circumstances that India, the world's largest producer of vaccines by the Serum Institute, is struggling now for access to vaccines. But I don't think, from what I understand, Chris, it's vaccines immediately that they need today. I think the problem is, or the COVID load in the community is so high that vaccinations are not the answer right now, as far as I'm led to believe, and I'm sure medical colleagues will advise otherwise. But
no, you're right, but you're right, and as usual, you're right on many ways. But I think the fact that it's taken so long, the fact that, yes, they should have started rolling it out, the fact that so many people are helping, which is what everybody should do when somebody else is down on their luck or misfortune. And fair play to BA, IAG, Qatar, Etihad, everybody that's done anything. It's fantastic. And now everybody else is worried that the Indian variant is going to be a variant of concern. So now it's going to cause even more problems if it doesn't get addressed. So like the oxygen and all the other support materials and everything that are getting there is going to make a difference. But Stephen, the one thing that I think has got to start happening as well now, we're talking about a modicum of common sense with politics, but it's also now got to have some sort of self accountability for what you do when things aren't going well. So hopefully now, please God, the conditions of some of the hospitals will start to be improved, because that's now being seen, globally, but also the fact that they allowed their own political gatherings, their own sports gatherings, their own religious gatherings. That has got to stop. People have got to start doing the right thing if they want people to help them in the right way. And if there's no self-management, it's very difficult then for people to start coming in after once there's been a bit of an outbreak.
It was incredulous that only a week ago, Modi and Narendra Modi was still holding election rallies, and he seemed to view that as a higher priority than public health. I have to say, he's not the only one that's done that. Of course, Bolsonaro in Brazil did the same.
Yep.
Mayudin did the same in Malaysia. All these clowns do all this nonsense for their self-fulfilling purposes, and of course cause absolute chaos. Potentially putting people's lives at risk. Now. Until last week, might even have been earlier this week, India was not locked down. There was no lockdown.
This is what I'm saying, Steve.
So for a country, to be fair, India handled this pretty well, I think, first time round. I mean, it sort of sat below the radar, relatively well. Quite what changed this time, I don't know. I'm not going to put my finger on it, but we are, for those that are not aware, my wife is of Indian origin, and we have friends and family in India, of course, and it's been a torrid time. The stories that I hear, actually, normally what you hear on the media has been, typically sort of amplified for viewer effect. Yeah. And so, of course, what I did is rather than trust the BBC that has become rather untrustworthy these days, I have tended to speak to my own friends and colleagues in India and ask them for the sort of the raw warts and all, and they said, Stephen, actually, it's much worse than you are seeing on television. You cannot smell the stench of bodies burning in the street as we can, and we just don't go out. We don't leave our house because it's so bloody prevalent in all corners that there's nowhere to go. It's completely sort of absurd. So everybody I've spoken to has had it. Now, touch wood, nobody that I know has passed away. It doesn't solve for, excuse all the others that have, but I'm just saying, the family members that I've spoken to have not had any losses, thankfully. But they've had people that have been pretty darn sick.
No, Steve, it's absolutely terrible. But what I'm saying is, I think now people have got to start. They've got to start working out now. It doesn't make sense to come in and bail somebody out or to help somebody if they're not helping themselves. And there now should be some sort of prerequisites or requirements before people start to do it and demand it, because it just doesn't make sense. And I think everybody's got to now start being more accountable. They've got to be more aware of their risk. They've got to be sustainable in a certain way, and they've got to educate. They've got to educate everybody. And if that doesn't happen, then whether it's David Ambridge or James White out there, they'll work out what that acronym is that I've just listed off, and that's exactly what it turns people into. And they've got to be more now self-disciplined.
Well, one thing I always thought was rather unusual was the fact that India is of course one of the richest countries in the world. It has an economy that is enormous, and yet little old Blighty here, little old United Kingdom, continues to contribute international development to a country that has put people in space with their space program. Isn't
Yep.
that rather unusual use of funds when, frankly speaking, the materiality of not having strong public infrastructure and healthcare,
Yep.
that you've been able to see how damaging that is, and it's been exposed in a crisis like this.
Yep.
They can't have access to that, but they can have our money to fund space programs. I think that, frankly, is not only distasteful but morally and justifiably wrong. So
Yep,
yes, this should be a kick up the backside, Chris, to every politician in India to rethink their priorities rather than filling their own pockets from ill-earned gains or ill-gotten gains and all this corruption that goes on in India and brown envelopes that you and I have seen and all of our listeners will have seen in India as well. They should start putting the money where their mouth is and helping the people of this wonderfully beautiful country. India is a massively wonderful, wonderful country, and it's very sad to see.
Yeah, no, and it's and to see the suffering of the people there and the conditions that they've got to be treated in, terrible. Now, with that in mind, that's also a reminder now for everybody that even if they've got the jabs, whether it's 2 jabs, 1 jab, whatever, that's not a panacea or an immunity voucher for them to think right now, once the gates are open, whether it's green or amber routes, that they can go everywhere, come back and everything's going to be happy. People have still got to be a little bit careful, Steve.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think that's the message I'm hoping that we're going to see coming out in about 3 minutes time.
3 minutes time, mate. That's it.
Yeah. Look, yeah, absolutely. We said this in the beginning, Chris, not on the basis of any medical knowledge or science, but simply on the basis of, easy as she goes, steady as she goes. Don't open the open the taps fully. Let's not mess this up when we're so close to the end point. So whilst people can travel and they should be able to travel, and we should now be able to unlock many of the aspects of controls that were put in place. Let's get rid of masks, for example, in the UK now that we've gone this so far here, and there's so little prevalence in the community. The hospitals are now seeing hardly anybody there. There was 7 deaths yesterday. I mean, it doesn't even hit the radar now. So what we have to be able to do is balance the reopening with actually trying to create a sense of normality, because it is not normal to sit outside and have dinner in 6 degrees in the so-called spring. Let's get back inside. Let's allow people to go back to normal lives. Let's get rid of these bloody masks, but do so in a controlled and structured way.
Yep, I must admit, I did. I had many of those lunches this last week down in Cornwall, and my goodness me, it was windy, but it was worth.
I had my ski gear on last night. I was in Ascot last night, and I had my ski gear on and my snood. Actually, I took the train past your place. Took the train past your place. I was thinking about you as I wished past on the South Western Railway.
That's very nice of you, son.
On time for a change, because no passengers helps the darn thing be on time.
Exactly. Now, you're talking about unused vaccines. Japan now. I read somewhere that Japan's got 24 million doses of Pfizer unused, stockpiled. Well, that doesn't make sense.
What are they going to do with them?
Exactly, it does make sense. I mean, if they want to speed things up, then fair enough.
Is everybody now vaccinated in Japan?
No, not at all. It's very low.
Well, they should stick it in people's arms, I suspect.
Exactly. No, it's very, very low. Now, with the expectation in 1 minute, I think somewhere Portugal is going to benefit big time, and it's already showing up on the rates, the flight prices. Steve, I don't know if you've seen them. 17th of May, you go on Ryanair, it's £152, and it was £15 on the 16th. You've got EasyJet, it's 234 on the 17th, and it drops to 73 on the 18th. So everybody's expecting a huge influx into Portugal, and good luck on them as well. Lovely.
Well, remember, that's a product of demand.
Yeah.
Demand-based pricing. And people say, "Oh, the airlines are gouging." Oh, they're not gouging at all, my friend. They've been offering you some great deals over the last few months if you wanted to travel. It might not be legal for you to travel, but no, I think people should expect to pay more. People will pay more. There should be no expectation that you'll be able to get a 20 quid flight for the next few months as we start to rebuild the business. I think it's only right, fair, and proper that people are remunerated fairly, and that includes the airlines and all the travel service providers, so they can also start to recoup some of their losses that will take many more years of you flying to Portugal than you can ever imagine.
Yeah, no, it's right. It's right. That's
what he's on now.
And that's again. Look at this. Hey, this is live. This is live. Hey, Steve.
Well, I can't get the sound on because Salam will tell me off for putting sound in the background. But there is a fella that is doing British Sign Language, and I wish only I could read that now, but I can't.
Put the old subtext on, subtitles.
Subtitles, yeah. I think I was trying to work out how to do that because it's a technical. It requires some technical. There we go. A responsible route out of this pandemic, he said. There we go. I could have been up there, Chris. I could have been up there.
That's it, a responsible route. And again, making sure that people are accountable, they're aware of the risk, and the whole point of this is for sustainability. Everybody needs to be educated. And it's a nice acronym there because
one of the things, I mean, interestingly, he just said that notably 1 in 3 new mothers in 2021 were born outside the UK.
What?
1 in 3 new mothers that have had children from the 1st of January to now in the UK were born outside the UK. So the mothers are foreigners. So you think about, this is not about people going on holiday or people traveling to go and sit on the beach for 2 weeks or go to the playas and have an English fry up. Quite why you do that, I don't know, but people seem to like to do those things. Weird fellas. But this is actually about reconnecting people and families and things that have been broken apart for more than a year. Now being able to rejoin one another. It's not necessarily about leisure travel. I don't think when I get on an airplane and fly to Spain or fly to Malaysia and see my family, that's leisure travel. It's not.
Yeah.
That's essential travel as far as I'm concerned. And that's the way I've pitched it. And that's the reason I've been traveling as I have been over the last 12 months. That is essential travel. Now, you can say what you like about that, whether that's right or wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, that's right. Tried to stop me. So this is about reconnecting people that haven't been able to do that or felt they couldn't do that, and allowing them the opportunity to get back together. It's not just about getting back on a beach for 2 weeks. People are not seeing new grandchildren or people that have been in hospital or sick, or they've not been able to do any of that. So this is not just about leisure. I think we've got to be careful just to think this is not about jumping on the first flight to go on holiday.
Yeah, no, it's not. And have they announced any of the bands yet?
Well, if I'm looking at you here, I'm trying to look over there. If my television was here, I would be able to see, but I can't. Right, Nellie?
Yeah, you're better off looking at me anyhow, Sam.
Well, I'm looking at you, and Nellie's right behind. So we've got. Nellie's made a guest appearance on today's show, Chris.
Yes. And what she's
a very important function to keep this whole show on the road for myself and Ramani. So
Yep. Now everybody knows the secret behind Mr. Dickson.
Secret behind my success. She's gone shy now.
Yeah. Well done, Nellie.
House.
Sorry?
It's very clean house.
It's very clean. I'm very clean anyway.
Yeah.
I
just swipe.
She just wipes. Very good. Right. So, what else, Chris, today?
What else have we got? We got most of the European carriers now hoping that Europe was a little bit faster in their rollout of vaccines because they've been lagging very, very well behind. Yeah.
He's talking about the red list now. So the red list is saying he's the red list and the COVID rates. Oh, and the variants of concern, including in Turkey, the Maldives and Nepal will be added to the red list. That's Maldives, Nepal, and Turkey added to the red list.
Yeah, I read something as well about Everest, and they've had a little outbreak up there. And what it said was anybody who wants to climb now is going to have to socially distance. This is really
quite sad. I was speaking to a colleague on Wednesday who was due to be in Istanbul. I'm sure he's now thankful he's not. Otherwise, he would end up in a government-sponsored hotel that you pay for. bit like Strangeways, although you've got to pay for it yourself.
Yeah,
I imagine it pays for you to be in Strangeways. But it's sad for the Maldives, Chris, because the Maldives had a good trick. They were giving you an injection. They were giving you a COVID vaccine on arrival.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that is rather, that's the same feeling I've got about that as I have had about private sector airlines vaccinating their people and using it as a competitive advantage. I think that was rather unscrupulous, and I think it is the same for the Maldives to do that where no other country could.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'll tell you what,
Greenland,
what you just mentioned there about
Portugal, Gibraltar, Israel.
Yeah, that's all the ones expected. Yeah.
France, Spain, and Greece are not yet included, but every 3 weeks they will be reviewed.
What? So France, Spain, and Greece are on the amber.
Yeah.
Which means self-isolation when you get back.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know something? If there's any logic out there now, they will reassign the Champions League final from Istanbul to the UK, so Chelsea and Man City can play over here.
Well, I thought about that. I was talking to a friend. I was talking to Peter Lynham, one of our avid listeners and one of our colleagues, Chris in Ascot, and we were talking about that. We said, well, can they get? Why wouldn't you just play it at Wembley?
Yeah.
So Wembley's booked up that night with Hartlepool Town and Stoke City or some crap, because of the playoffs.
Playoffs. Yeah, but there's plenty of grounds where they can put it.
I was teasing slightly. Chris, one thing I did want to mention was we didn't give James Hogan a mention.
Now, in what way, Stephen?
Well, this is a rather devious man who formerly was the Etihad CEO, who allegedly tried to beat the UK quarantine legislation. There was a great Daily Mail spread earlier this week, which I sent to you.
I seen it. I read the paper myself.
You like to stay off controversial topics, Chris? No,
I'm not steering off of it. It's just that I've always had quite.
I thought your love for James Hogan was.
No, I like the man, and I've got a lot of time for him.
You're in a small club then.
What happened? I mean, look, anybody who breaks the rules is not right.
Well, I think what he did was, it's not the fact that he broke the rules. I mean, many people I suspect have broken the rules. I think what has happened, Chris, is he is a very well, I wouldn't say highly regarded. I suspect he's not very highly regarded, but he's a well-known airline industry professional, and it is very clear that he knew, because of his profession, how to try to beat the system, and it failed. And somebody dobbed him in, probably somebody he sacked so that he didn't get on with it, Etihad or elsewhere, and that, I think, actually brought down a level of disrepute on our industry. I mean, say, well, if a former airline CEO or boss is doing that, then what do you expect from Joe Public? I think that's the point I was making.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to what I was saying. Everybody has to be accountable. Everybody has to understand the risk. Everybody needs to do things in a sustainable fashion. And more people need to be educated as to what's right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah. Just another one of James Hogan's strategies that failed.
Okay, fair enough, Steve. So I take it you're right. Now, you were going to talking on the subject. You were talking about coming back to Australia.
I did. I thought what Australia did to their own people. I mean, I thought we've spoken about the good and bad of Australia during this, the 12 months, Chris, during the time we've been talking about it, because Australia have handled, I think, the collateral issues aside, they've handled the control and the spread of the virus pretty well and robustly. Now, that has caused some consternation from some other parts, people accusing them of being maybe a little parochial in some of their measures. But what happened this week was a blatant abuse against their own citizens, which was they banned and threatened their own citizens, Australian citizens. They threatened with a prison sentence if they tried to enter the country from India. Which was frankly quite staggering that they could do that when in the passport, it specifically states that Her Majesty requests all those to allow the bearer of this passport to pass freely without let or hindrance. And that's a statement that's used to allow people to move around the world freely. And yeah, you could say it's a bit archaic, but it's something should be of meaningful note. Yet those people couldn't pass freely into their own country. And I think there's a real abuse of potentially there's a human rights case there. So thankfully, I've seen today ScoMo, the Australian Prime Minister, has relented and now allowing them back in. But that was Australia saying to their own citizens, you are not welcome here. You cannot come here, despite all the control measures we have, despite all the quarantine camps, the Darwin camp, and all this other draconian measures that we've got to lock you up for 14 days. You still can enter your own country. I think that quite takes the biscuit.
But Steve, I think it just shows what happens when things do go wrong as they've gone now this time. And I think thankfully now, or hopefully, people are going to start looking at other possibilities. And I was also reading about, do you remember the film, the first film with Michael Caine, The Italian Job?
You've only gone and blown the bloody doors off.
That's it. Very good, mate. Yeah. But The Italian Job. Now, you remember when they did, and they took over and they completely broke down all of the systems that had the traffic lights so that the cars could weave in and out. Yeah? Well, the thing is now, from a cybersecurity perspective, you imagine now, if people were able to do that in a major city, it would be gridlock, Steve. So I think people have now got to start looking at all the extremes that people didn't focus on well enough and make sure none of these things can happen now moving forward. Because as great as we are as a people, it just goes to show how weak and how fragile it can be, if people don't take things seriously.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
And and then you see the best and the very worst of people. And you see what people, what they'll go to, the lengths they'll go to just to bypass it or benefit from it. It's, it's my goodness me. Who knows what the next 50 years is gonna contain, huh? There we go. Listen, on that, thank you again. It's great to have you back. Nice to see the old fires are still burning there. There was a few sparks there, and obviously it's very nice to see what a clean house you're keeping there, awaiting your family's return. Beautiful. Well done to Nellie again.
Thanks, Chris.
Right, we'll see you again. Take care, mate. See you next week.
Cheers.
All the best.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Weekend. See you.
Bye.